Here are the top stories for today, January 27, 2020. The Philippines is said to remain safe for foreign tourists amid a scare over the novel coronavirus. The Presidential AntiCorruption Commission belies reports that the Philippines is becoming a more corrupt state. Police and military issue an extortion guide in Bukidnon in dealing with the NPA. And basketball fans and enthusiasts all over the world mourn the death of NBA legend Kobe Bryant. Good day, I'm Bench Bondok. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story this evening, the Department of Tourism said the Philippines remains a safe travel destination for foreign tourists amid a scare over the novel coronavirus. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Lomolopuyat said there is nothing to worry about traveling to key destinations in the country as authorities are on top of the situation. Earlier, the United Kingdom updated its travel advisory to the Philippines, warning its nationals against health risks over the ongoing outbreak of coronavirus in other parts of China and the region. The Civil Aeronautics Board has suspended flights between Wuhan and the Philippines to contain the spread of the disease. Meanwhile, there was no directive from President Rodrigo Duterte to repatriate overseas Filipino workers in Wuhan, China. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo on Sunday said the government could not force Filipinos residing and working in areas with confirmed cases of the fatal coronavirus to return home. The 2019 nCoV that began spreading at a seafood market in Wuhan, China, has started spreading around the world. Confirmed cases of the new coronavirus have been reported in Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Singapore, Nepal, France, and the United States, stoking fears of a global pandemic. Amid the 2019 nCoV outbreak, Panelo assured that the Philippine government is doing its best to ensure the safety of Filipinos. He said sending back passengers from Wuhan is among the measures being undertaken by the current administration. In other news, the head of the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission belied reports that the Philippines is becoming a more corrupt state under the leadership of President Rodrigo Duterte. PACC Chair Dante Jimenez said the claim that corruption worsened under Duterte's watch was far from the truth. Jimenez's statement was in response to the January 24 article published by American business magazine Forbes, which claims that the Philippines is turning into a more corrupt and less democratic state. The Forbes article says the Philippines is getting a more corrupt and less democratic state under President Rodrigo Duterte. Jimenez expressed dismay that instead of focusing on reality, critics are basing their allegations on perception. He said that in just 3 years since Duterte assumed office in 2016, the fight against corruption has become very successful. Jimenez noted that the president's crackdown on corruption in government has so far led to the firing of and filing of cases against many public officials and employees suspected of graft and corruption. He cited that dozens of personnel of the Bureau of Customs have been dismissed from service. Charges were filed against officials of the National Housing Authority who are responsible for incomplete and substandard housing projects built for victims of Super Typhoon Yolanda, and the president himself has also intensified his fight against corruption by exposing the corrupt corporations such as Manila Water and Maynilad. Jimenez said Duterte's crackdown on corruption in government would remain relentless despite false accusations hurled by the president's enemies. The Philippine National Police on Saturday paid tribute to the heroism of the 44 fallen Special Action Force police officers who were slain in the 2015 Mamasapano encounter. Arjanis Cave finds out how the PNP commemorated the event nationwide.
The Philippine National Police on Saturday commemorates the heroism of the SAF 44 at the SAF headquarters in Taguig City. National Police Deputy Chief for Operations, Lieutenant General Guillermo Eleazar leads the wreath-laying ceremony, saying the heroism of the 44 members of the Elite Special Action Force is a story that should be retold to the next generations. He said PNP Chief General Archie Gamboa has already assured full support not only to the relatives of the 44 fallen police commandos but also to the SAF as an institution through the procurement of modern firearms and other essential equipment. He also welcomed the possible reinvestigation of the case in the Senate. Meanwhile, personnel of the Police Regional Office in Caraga Region also observed the Day of Remembrance for SAP 44. The activity started with the Holy Mass, the wreath-laying ceremony at the PRO 13 Law Enforcement Memorial, and highlighted with the presentation of the plaque of recognition to the 1st Special Action Battalion of the PNP in the region. PNP personnel who were killed while performing their duty were also given recognition during the activity. In Maguindanao, police authorities in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao also paid tribute on Saturday to the acts of heroism of 44 elite police officers. Brigadier General Marnie Marcos Jr. and 4th Special Forces Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Darwin Padla offer flowers in remembrance of the SAP 44. Marcos called on all police officers to remain steadfast against the injustices by terrorist and lawless groups in the BARMM and continue remembering the gallant 44 who offered their lives in the name of public service. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, police and military issue an extortion guide in Bukidnon in dealing with the NPA. And the Department of Tourism assures assistance in the promotion and recovery of tourism sites affected by the Albay Volcano's eruption. These stories are next. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Ulat sa ginagawa ng Presidente. January 4, Sabado, Quezon City. Dumalo si Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa Change of Command Ceremony ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. January 6, Lunes, Malacanang. Pinirmahan ng Pangulo ang 2020 General Appropriations Act o ang 4.1 trillion national budget para sa taong 2020. Pinangunahan niya ang 45th Cabinet Meeting na ginanap sa Aguinaldo State Dining Room. January 7, Martes, Malacanang. Iginawad ni Pangulong Duterte ang Order of National Scientist Award kay Dr. Emil Javier bilang pagkilala sa natatanging kontribusyon nito sa larangan ng siyensya at teknolohiya.
The whole nation owes its deepest gratitude to Dr. Javier for his promising contributions to the scientific community, particularly in tropical agriculture research and copra production. Your leadership at the Institute of Plant Breeding advanced the production of high-yielding crops and disease-resistant varieties in the Philippines and in Asia, paving the way to better nourishment and improved quality of life for our people.
Sa isang interview ay sinabi ng Pangulo na nagpadala na siya ng opisyal upang siguruhin ang kaligtasan ng mga Pinoy sa Middle East sa gitna ng namumuong tensyon sa rehiyon.
I have sent Secretary Mamao is Maranao. Is a cabinet member. I've sent him to both Tehran and in Baghdad, if we can make it, to talk to the leaders about the plight of the Philippine workers.
Pinulong niya ang mga opisyal ng Philippine Fiber Industry Development Authority at National Irrigation Administration. January 8, Miyerkules, Malacanang. Pinanumpa ng Pangulo ang mga bagong talagang government officials. Nanumpa rin si newly appointed Supreme Court Associate Justice Samuel Garland. January 10, Biyernes, Pigkawayan, Cotabato. Pinangunahan ni Pangulong Duterte ang pamamahagi ng 58 million pesos agricultural assistance para sa mga magsasaka sa Region 12. Ako po si Secretary Martin Antanar at ito ang Duterte on Duty. Abangan sa susunod na linggo ang mga gagawin ng Pangulo.
More stories from the newsroom. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology on Sunday lowered the status of the Taal volcano to alert level 3 from alert level 4. In its 8 a.m. bulletin, PHIVOX said Taal volcano now has decreased tendency towards hazardous eruption after 2 weeks of surveillance for another potential eruption. PHIVOX said this does not eliminate the possibility of a volcanic eruption. PHIVOX Chief Renato Solidium earlier said in a television interview there was no expected activity for now as long as magma deep beneath the volcano does not move. State volcanologists also strongly recommended strict prohibition of entry to the permanent danger zone within a 7-kilometer radius from the volcano's crater. Meanwhile, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council in its 6 a.m. situation report said some 98,000 families or 376,000 persons in the provinces of Batangas, Quezon, Laguna, and Cavite have been affected by the volcano's unrest. Of this number, about 135,365 persons were taking temporary shelter in 497 evacuation centers, while 168,569 were served outside evacuation centers. Staying with the government's response to the Taal unrest, the Department of Tourism assured it is ready to assist in the promotion and recovery of tourism establishments affected by the restive Taal volcano. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said they will be coordinating with the National Economic and Development Authority in recovery efforts. Romulo Puyat said the government is focused on helping evacuees who were forced to flee their homes. She reiterated calls on businesses to heed the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology's advice. She underscored that the country remains safe for foreign tourists, adding that other Philippine destinations remain totally unaffected by the recent volcanic eruption. PHIVOX on Sunday lowered the status of Taal volcano to alert level 3. On to some business headlines. Malacanang said President Duterte's economic team is competent enough to lift more Filipinos out of poverty. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said the palace was confident that the country's economic managers can introduce anti-poverty measures aimed at helping poor Filipino families. Panelo issued a statement after a December social weather station's poll revealed that the number of Filipino households who consider themselves poor increased in the past 3 months. SWS noted that the latest number of poor Filipino families was the highest since the 55% posted in September 2014. Panelo expressed confidence that poverty rate would go down as the government implements new projects that would create more job opportunities for Filipinos. The administration is targeting reducing poverty incidence to 14% by the end of Duterte's term in 2022. Moving to regional headlines now, authorities have issued a guide for local businesses in Bukidnon in dealing with the extortion activities of the New People's Army. The Army's 8th Infantry Battalion jointly released the guide along with the Philippine National Police during the January 22 meeting of business owners. The guide details the process that each business operator must do if they received a demand for revolutionary tax from the NPA. Business owners should preserve the letters, text messages, or phone calls of actual extortion demands and immediately report these to authorities. The 8th IB said the NPA's extortion schemes involve sending out demand letters to local businesses to pay revolutionary taxes. Buklod President Doy Lopez has called on his 21-member business group to post the extortion guide on their establishments, including the hotlines, to generate awareness among their employees.
An active member of the New People's Army voluntarily surrendered to the Philippine National Police in Camp Vicente Pimentel Sr. in Tandag City, Surigao del Sur. The NPA member was identified as Joselito Murillo Lanang alias Mark, a resident of Purokman on Tubu-Tubu, Caguai Town. Lanang also surrendered 1 pistol, assorted ammunition, and a backpack. The police regional office in Caraga region urged the remaining members of the NPA in the area to lay down their arms and abandon the ideology. In Maguindanao, 16 members of Islamic State-linked Bangsamoro Islamic freedom fighters surrendered to military authorities on Saturday. They were presented at Camp Sionco before civilian officials, including Bangsamoro Autonomous Region and Muslim Mindanao Interior Minister Nagib Sinarimbo. BIFF Field Commander Wazray Kompas told military officials that his group is tired of fighting and running away from government forces. The former rebels received financial aid. Meanwhile, an alleged member of the Dawla Islamiyah was killed in a clash with government troops in the hinterlands of Lanao del Sur. The slain member was identified as Jerry Rosman from Marawi City. The clash occurred Friday afternoon when the troops spotted a group of Dawla Islamiyah members along the borders of Balindong and Piagapo towns. The army has called on the locals to report to proper authorities any presence of armed groups in their communities. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Joyce Goodies.
More stories from the newsroom. Pampanga villagers beat plastic pollution by joining in the Refill Revolution campaign. And basketball fans and enthusiasts all over the world mourn the death of NBA legend Kobe Bryant. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
February 14, 1999 was my very first attempt. Itong last rehab ko, after I broke up with my most recent girlfriend, talagang rock bottom ako. Naranasan ko na sa tulay ako natutulog. Kailangan sa aming mga nagkaroon ng active addiction, gradual yung reintegration sa society. Kasi malayong-malayo na kami sa realidad ng society. Para sa akin, bilib ako sa presidente kasi hindi lang ako ang nakikinabang ngayon. Dahil sa ginagawa ng presidente, namumulat ang tao tungkol sa problema ng addiction sa Pilipinas.
After 67 years, the original image of the Our Lady of Ofnanavali returned to its first home in Intramuros, Manila on Friday. The homecoming was attended by devotees and members of the Colegio de San Juan de Letran community as the college celebrates its 400th year. Manila Archbishop Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle led the commemoration of the 1907 canonical coronation of the image, now considered the oldest ivory carving in the Philippines. The image, known under the title of Our Lady of the Rosary, was created in 1593. The Santo Domingo Church in Quezon City, which was previously located in Intramuros, became the home of the image. In 1973, La Naval was formally declared the patroness of the city. An annual procession is held every second Sunday of October during the Feast of La Naval. A news of shock and disbelief, basketball fans and enthusiasts all over the world mourned the death of NBA legend Kobe Bryant on Sunday. Bryant was one of 9 people killed in a helicopter crash in Calabasas of Southern California. The Los Angeles Lakers legend, 5-time NBA champion, and 18-time All-Star died at the age of 41. In a report from the Los Angeles Times, Bryant's 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, was also on board and died. Bryant was on his way to a travel basketball game with his daughter when the helicopter crashed. The aircraft went down in a remote field of Las Virgenes around 10 in the morning. Those aboard the helicopter also included another player and parent. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration and National Transportation Safety Board will investigate the helicopter crash. The Baguio Health Services Office has advised residents to wear face masks and avoid close contact with persons with respiratory infections as the city prepares for Panagbanga 2020. The HSO enumerated preventive measures considering the expected upsurge of tourists and visitors in February for the Baguio Flower Festival. The HSO said the city has not recorded or monitored any confirmed case of the 2019 novel coronavirus, which is now spreading in Wuhan in China. To prevent any of the residents from contracting the respiratory disease, the HSO also advised the public to observe good personal hygiene by frequent hand washing, especially after coughing, sneezing, using the toilet before handling food, and after contact with sick patients. Those who have coronavirus symptoms such as fever, cough, and difficulty of breathing seek medical care early and share previous travel history to a healthcare provider. And before we go, some news about caring for Mother Earth. As part of efforts to beat pollution and save the environment, residents in Pampanga learned to reduce plastic waste by reusing and recycling their plastic containers. Arlade Kabagani has more details.
Some 600 residents in San Fernando City, Pampanga joined the refill revolution and trooped to the Poblacion basketball court in Barangay Santo Rosario here, bringing recycled plastic bottles and containers which were refilled with condiments and household products. Refill Revolution is an advocacy campaign of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in Central Luzon that is aimed at beating plastic pollution by reducing its production and necessity. During the activity, the locals were able to refill kitchen condiments, laundry products, and other household items by bringing clean and reusable bottles, containers, and eco bags. These items were sold at prices that were 50% to 70% lower than the actual retail prices in supermarkets. Senior Officer Regina Rodriguez said they want to teach residents to avoid single-use plastics and instead promote eco-friendly and sustainable ways of utilizing plastic products. Manufacturers and retailers that rallied behind the initiative took part in the refilling activity. In support of the event, City Mayor Edwin David Santiago reiterated his desire for San Fernando to remain a zero-waste city in the midst of progress and development. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lade Kabagani.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The Philippines is said to remain safe for foreign tourists amid a scare over the novel coronavirus. The Presidential AntiCorruption Commission belies reports that the Philippines is becoming a more corrupt state. Police and military issue an extortion guide in Bukidnon in dealing with the NPA. And basketball fans and enthusiasts all over the world mourn the death of NBA legend Kobe Bryant. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Bench Bondok. Good evening.